This race is not about animosity, it's about ideas. It is about the direction of the Republican Party. It is about the direction of our country.
I congratulate Richard Mourdock on his victory in a hard-fought race.
The Tea Party is still a force to be reckoned with. We see here results from last night's election in Indiana, where longtime Senator Dick Lugar lost his primary fight with Richard Mourdock. We're going to go right to Laura Meckler in Washington, who has this story. Laura, tell us about the Tea Party. They played a big role in this election.
Well, they did rally around Richard Mourdock and helped him win for sure yesterday. Although that was not the only factor in his victory. I mean, the sort of what people who watched the race concluded was that Senator Lugar, who had been in there for 6 terms, just really kind of lost touch with the state and made a lot of mistakes in running his campaign. So it was both an opportunity seized as well as one lost for Senator Lugar.
What's fascinating to me, you mentioned he lost touch with the state, as that was the argument. The big campaign issue was the fact that he sold his house in Indiana in 1976.
Right. And he tried to say, well, I can't afford to, maintain 2 houses, own 2 houses, so he chose to live in one in Washington. And the problem was that just became, a problem in and of itself, and also symbolic of a larger problem. Senator Lugar is very widely respected in Washington as somebody who is, sober, serious, takes on big issues, is willing to work across the aisle when he agrees with the other side, but also quite conservative on many issues. I mean, he's a very well-regarded senator, and he kind of thought that would translate to Indiana and that he would keep winning. But in fact, he had lost the other part of politics, which is, staying in touch with the people who sent you there.
Why was he targeted, really? I mean, what were the key issues that fired up the Republican base to throw him out of office?
Well, some of the same things we've seen elsewhere. Part of it, I think the reason he lost is because of the things we just were talking about. But there were also some of the things that we've seen in other races, like his support for the bank bailout, the TARP program. His support for the auto bailout became an issue, interestingly. Even though Indiana has, a ton of auto jobs, Richard Mourdock sort of made his mark on the political scene by deciding to actually file suit and challenge the federal bailout of Chrysler, representing some state pension funds, and saying that he took it all the way to the Supreme Court, saying that those pension funds were not getting as much as they should have, as much as they would have in a bankruptcy. So that was a pretty bold decision, but he was, he rode that, and now he's poised to possibly win in November.
Who is he going to be up against in November? Do we know?
He's up against Congressman Joe Donnelly, who's a sort of a moderate Democrat who's been representing a district in the state in the House. Democrats think they have a chance now. The general conventional wisdom on the race of the 2 of them is that it still definitely leans Republican, but whereas with Senator Lugar, it was basically a Republican lock. Now there is an opening for the Democrat because just Richard Mourdock is just not going to have the same kind of appeal to independent voters that Dick Lugar did.
Who won in 2008 in Indiana?
Oh, well, President Obama took Indiana in 2008, which was a big surprise because Indiana has long been a Republican state. So there was some conversation about whether, is the state becoming more Democratic? In 2010, Republicans did very well, and really the Obama campaign isn't even talking about taking Indiana this time. They believe that that's probably out of the reach for the president in this election year.